Garrett, our son, was a saint. He was our rock of the family. Anybody that knew him, loved him, wanted to be around him. Very supportive of everybody. Community.
He was everybody's person.
Yeah.
Everyone said, that's my person.
He was a magnetic personality. He just, everybody, whether you just met him on the street or if you knew him for a lifetime, everybody, they were drawn to him. He was just that type of person.
If there was somebody stopped on the side of the road that had problems, he would stop and help them. And that's what he did throughout his life. Firefighting is just not an ordinary job. You gotta love it, you gotta live it, and it's hard when you're married and have a spouse and kids. It's in your blood, you're devoted to that job, you're devoted to the community, you're devoted to humanity. And he was one that was very devoted to all that.
He's also a second-generation firefighter.
Yeah.
Followed in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah. I started out in Sterling, Illinois, full-time. He started out in South Carolina, down there. He went through the academy, was a full-time firefighter down there, met his love of his life, moved back up to Sterling, and got on the full-time department where I was at, where I retired after 30 years. So I worked with him for a year and a half together. So that was made me very proud as a dad.
Being out in South Carolina and then maturing, I think he realized family was important. I mean, he put his wild oats out in South Carolina, but when he was ready to settle down, he came home to be around family. I think he, even though he died young, he died happy. He died doing what he wanted to do and having his family and being around friends. And one thing
He had a really good life.
He did. He was, he lived life to the fullest. He really did.
The last 3 years, I lived 3 blocks away from him. He was one of my best friends.
They actually thought that her and him were married because they were so close together, and everybody was jealous of the tight-knit family of us and them two together. And not only that, but the grandkids, how well they play together, and they're just, and that's what we're about. We're such a tight-knit family, and we expand throughout Illinois and then some. Our friends are just great. They're like family to us too, so,
I stood next to him at his wedding. That's how close we were. I introduced him to his wife.
Yeah.
He's truly one of my best friends.
He was very fun, and he loved playing statues with us. That was very fun. He always gave me shoulder rides and piggyback rides.
When we were sometimes having dinner at our grandma's, as she said, we would play statues like around the house. Like one day we would play in the front room, and other times we would play in the living room.
We're the type of family that we don't like sit in the house and get on our iPads, stuff like that, our phones. We're the type that we'll get out and do things out in our deck or do things with the kids and, like the swings and play baseball, football, stuff like that, so.
And Uncle G was always the guy.
Yeah, he was always the guy.
When they were
doing
there,
all
it's Uncle
kinds of
G, come
things.
play with us. And
Yeah.
he was right out there all the time. Yeah.
Well, all the years I worked there, it was always a tight-knit family. We always did things together, whether it be family, events. Our family members would come down, we'd eat supper together. I'd cook for the shift and their families would come down, and we're very tight-knit. The love that they've shown us since his passing is just amazing. This Fallen Firefighter Association is just so awesome, So they touch our hearts, and you feel the love and the warmth and the caring from the association. So.
No one will forget his laugh. He had the best laugh. That's it. You hear themes, when you lose someone, and that's one of the themes was his infectious laughter. And he also is the only person I've ever known who can make fun of anyone and get away with it.
Yes, he could.
Yeah. He was going to be elevated to to be the fire chief. The mayors came to us and says that he was being groomed to be the fire chief of Sterling. And it was the future of Sterling Fire Department. He had ideas, he had training things to do. He wanted to see things change there. He wanted to see good things change. He wanted to elevate that fire department to a different level. Everybody in other departments that were in the city of Sterling came to, pay their respects, and they all knew him. They all, even though he worked for the fire department, the police department, some of the employees in the city.
He's very involved in the community.
Yeah, they all knew him, and they all came and paid their respects. But they always talked about Garrett.
He started his career at North Charleston just a couple months after the Charleston 9 happened, that fire. So they overhauled, if you know anything about the history of that fire, and those 9 firefighters that died, they overhauled, and he was on the receiving end of all of the changes that they made and had the best training. And so he knew that. That was what he was groomed as a firefighter. So when he came back to Sterling, he wanted to bring everything he learned to that department and really, make it the best that he could. The firefighter that spoke at his funeral said guys were dying for overtime to be on his shift so that they could learn from him.
So he can train them. Not only that, but he was actually a lieutenant, and they promoted him to captain. They all said that he was probably the best that ever, came through that department and then some. So,
When I think of Garrett, the one word that comes to mind is joy.
Golfing.
family.
Caring.
Happy.
He was a bright light. He just shone bright.
She made him a card, and it had other uncles depicted by a basic brown horse, and then Uncle G with a unicorn.
One of a kind to her.
Yeah.
So,
He was her godfather. And she's the first grandchild, so they had a special bond.
Well, he was our rock. He'll be dearly missed by not only us, but our extended families.
And his wife
And
his daughters.
they're still grieving his loss. That he touched a lot of lives.
Here's to you, with that smile on your face. Here's to you, and what I want to raise to this moment we share.